In this episode, we're talking about trade wars.
Episode number 25 today. Lots going on in the markets as it relates to the economy and NAFTA, tariffs with aluminum and steel. So we thought we'd shed some light on these issues and equip people with the tools so that they can be successful as it relates to their finances and their money.
Very topical right now, lots in the news, and I think it's a good idea to cut the noise.
Yeah, absolutely. So Grant, what's the deal? These tariffs on aluminum and steel.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, Donald Trump has come out and, essentially threatened with some tariffs on aluminum and steel imports. So 25% tariff on steel, 10% tariff on aluminum. And more than a threat, actually, just recently these tariffs have been implemented. So, anytime you hear the word tariffs, it definitely creates a little bit of fear out there because people automatically start thinking, trade wars. If they're going to put a tariff on this, well, then China might put a tariff on that. They're going to put a tariff on this, Canada might do that, And so, this is nothing new from this government in the U.S. because they've already threatened tariffs and they've already threatened taxes on, companies like Bombardier from Canada and other things. So it's not really anything new. It's something that this tool that they've been using for some time. A little bit different this time around because steel and aluminum are a little bit bigger deal as it relates to the Canadian economy.
So we're probably hearing a lot more about it because this is something that is an issue for Canada and is a little unsettling to Canadians and the economy.
Yeah, now the good news is actually just today, so this as of today's day when we're shooting this, Canada and Mexico have both been exempt from the tariffs. It was just announced literally about 20 minutes ago. And so good news is it actually has no effect on Canada today, but it does show the lengths that the U.S. government is going, the White House is going, and you see the tactics that the Trump administration is going to probably be using throughout his terms as president.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's just a sign of the times that we're in and how Canada needs to be prepared to negotiate with the United States on these issues.
NAFTA negotiations. This one feels long, drawn out. I'm sure a lot of people are getting tired of hearing about NAFTA, but it is important. So Why don't you share a little insight on what's going on, where we're at today, because it seems as though things are continuously moving and changing every day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we lumped the tariffs and NAFTA together in this video. It's because those two items are working very closely together right now, and there is a thought that the U.S. is going to use these tariffs as a negotiation tactic to get what they want out of NAFTA and make sure that Canada, in particular, and Mexico are in line with producing a favorable deal, essentially, for the United States. So, where are we with NAFTA? Well, we're actually nowhere different than we were even a few months ago. I mean, negotiations have continued on. I think we're entering round 8 or just finishing round 8 of negotiations. And so we're still moving forward with NAFTA. And there's a lot of thoughts out there from insiders and observers of the negotiations that NAFTA probably will stick around, but in a different form than what it was previously. Mm-hmm. And I think if you were going to bet on something, there's a higher percentage of that than anything else. But it's not done yet. I mean, there's more chapters in the story to be written. So we're all just staying tuned on that and seeing how that's going to play out. I think the fears around it are at this point unfounded, but it's certainly something you need to pay attention to.
We've seen the loonie go from, I think it was 81 cents. Now we're back down at 78.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, all of these things, tariffs and NAFTA, and they will all have an impact on the loonie in the short term. I mean, let's put it this way. If NAFTA falls through, it's probably going to create some short-term depreciation on the loonie. So it's going to go down. Likewise, though, if there's tariffs that are eventually applied that affect Canada, the loonie is going to drop. And that's why we've seen some fluctuations more recently this week when the thoughts were that the tariffs were going to apply to Canada. Even with Gary Cohn resigning recently this week.
Yeah.
that caused a bit of a wave because he was always a proponent against putting tariffs on, or he wasn't a proponent. He was against the tariffs in the first place.
Absolutely. Doing some good fighting in the White House to try and ensure that wasn't going to come to fruition. But
right. So when he resigned, the loonie took a dip on that day below 77 cents. So you can just see that's how people are feeling. Anytime that something is going against the Canadian economy, there's less demand for the loonie, less investment, so the loonie is going to drop. Now, I think it's important that this is all put into perspective. The loonie is at 78 cents, as you said, right? I still remember a 55-cent loonie. And so, just the other day, I had a friend who was down in the States who did some shopping, and they were saying, it's just really tough with where the loonie is. Well, I don't know where you expect the loonie to be because this is pretty average for the loonies to be around where it is compared to the U.S. dollar. So, it can go higher than this. We've seen it at parity, but I think to expect it always to be at parity, unrealistic.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that recency effect going on from after 2008 when we got to experience a higher loonie and go down south and enjoy what that means to us as Canadians. But that's typically not the norm for the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, exactly. So I think perspective is important on this. Yes, the loonie could go down if NAFTA falls through. It likely will. But everything with a grain of salt at this point. I would just add a comment on the tariffs, NAFTA, the loonie. Don't make any rash decisions.
I was going to say, if you could sum it up for investors. Now, we obviously don't know what everyone holds and how their portfolios are positioned, but if you have a solid portfolio that's in the right assets, you're not overexposed to maybe Canada, the U.S., anything like that, what would you say to a person who has a strong portfolio?
Really simple. Never react. Zero reaction. Always plan. If you have a longer-term approach to your investing, none of this really matters in the short term. So just never react to any of this news. Keep in mind, because some of these shorter-term things can lead to longer-term effects on companies you might own or assets you might own, but never react. That would be the best advice I can give to you. Stick to your discipline, and you'll be great.
Excellent. Well, with that,
let's close it off.
Yeah, signing off.
So, again, be sure to send us your questions. Go to our website, www.whitehoustonwealth.com. New website.
New website, new team. We've added a new advisor, so exciting times here at the White Houston Wealth Advisory Group.
Yeah, so be sure to visit our new website. And with that, ready,
aim,
fire.